I'm Helen, this is my husband Seth. We're from the UK, so we moved here from London to Singapore, and our little boy is 7 months old. Okay, so my experience with Janet has been only ever positive from the very beginning. Janet is incredibly responsive, flexible, really helpful. Anytime that she can make any adjustment for you, she will. The first few times that she came over was kind of figuring out our dynamic, and also the dynamic with Leo, who is still very young. But very quickly that became very natural. And Janet's just been a real life changer, I think, for both of us. Having her support has been amazing. She's just incredibly gentle and kind and treats our son wonderfully. So we're very lucky to have found Janet. So I think as many couples who live in Singapore, we don't have our families here. And as first-time parents, that was sometimes a bit daunting and overwhelming because we didn't really know what we were doing. And especially as a new mum, you need as much support as you can, especially when your husband goes back to work. So having Janet really provided for us that source of constant, steady support, especially because she's so reliable, so trustworthy. It gave me a lot of peace of mind when I just needed a little break, or if I needed to leave the house sometimes eventually. I knew that I could leave my son in very safe hands, and it gave me that constant source of kind of support and steadiness and consistency that I wasn't having from my parents because they live very far away. So it was really invaluable.
I think from my perspective, I will work in the office for half the week, and then I'll also work from home half the week. So I get a bit of an experience of both. And whenever I come home after Janet's been there and supporting Helen's always a bit more relaxed, a little bit more happy. He's always got a nice story to tell about how Janet's been kind of looking after Leo. There's often a photo or two, which is really lovely to see Leo smiling up at Janet. And I think I see that then also when I work from home. So when I come out and Janet arrives, Leo is thrilled as if like a member of his family's arrived, which it very much feels like that is the case. And obviously I pop out from my small office from time to time and see what's going on. I think the thing that I always feel really happy about is Leo is always very, very cheerful, always smiling, but is always doing something different with Janet. Janet might have taken him for a walk, she might be reading to him, she might be playing with him, and that's really lovely to see.
The thing I found really useful about Janet's support is that she's incredibly observant about Leo, so she'll often spot little things on him, like that he might have a mark somewhere, or that maybe he has something in his ear that needs cleaning, or something that I hadn't noticed because I'm busy doing a million other things. But she's so focused on him, she'll often notice these sorts of little things and point them out to me. And sometimes it'll be things like the way that he stands, he's not quite putting his feet on the floor right, and she has some suggestions about what I can do to help him kind of develop correctly in that sense. So it's almost every day that Janet will have noticed something about him, and she can point it out to me, which also gives me a lot of reassurance that she's focusing really closely on him, and also sharing her knowledge and expertise with me. And then lastly, I guess in a similar vein to that, I've also always noticed that whenever Janet's looking after Leo, like when he's awake, she never, ever, ever checks her phone. So even if I've messaged her, she won't see that message until he's gone down to sleep, which again is just lovely to know that she's fully focused on him. She's not distracted by other things or on her phone. She's really giving him her full attention. So it's very reassuring to me as well as a mum. Obviously, babies, evolve a lot and change a lot, and there's a lot of things that you'll be looking out for in terms of their development. It's very difficult to put things down to any one specific source, but definitely one thing I would say is that Janet has taught me a lot actually about child development and certain exercises that I can do with Leo to support various aspects of his development, which I wouldn't otherwise have known about, and have been really, really helpful. She's a surprising expert actually in terms of what to look out for, and because she's cared for so many babies, she's often able to give me a perspective on what's typical or less typical, which gives me a lot of reassurance, because especially as a first-time mum, you don't really know what might be normal and what not. So I really feel that she's been helpful to his development in terms of my understanding of what I should be looking for. and also giving me tips to help Leo as well. So.
And just to add on to that, I think, feeding into that, the Leo's changing with each day and each week, and we have a sense of the direction that we want Leo growing into. It's very hard, like Helen says, to put it down to one person, but we're confident that Janet is a positive force in Leo's growth and development, and that's something we're really grateful for.
I guess the best aspect of having worked with Janet, I think from our very first meeting, I knew that she was going to be someone. I think I messaged you instantly, actually,
yes,
after maybe half an hour. I was thrilled because I could just tell from the way that she held Leo, from the way that she was speaking to him, but also the way that she was working with me, that she really was putting his interests first, but also very much respecting the way that I wanted to do things and how I wanted to manage Leo, because every mum will have their own personal choices around how they want to manage sleep and feeding and all these sorts of things. Janet really respects that. She will do exactly as I've asked, even though I'm sure she's experienced lots of different types or styles of parenting. Janet is also, she's so consistent. Like she'll turn up every single day with the exact same smile on her face. I'm sure she may have days where she's tired or sad or going through challenges of her own, but you would never ever know that. She turns up at exactly the same time every single day with the same smile, the same lovely, friendly disposition. I just have peace of mind because I know that whenever I ask Janet to come over, I'm going to get the exact same thing every time. I know that I can trust the time she'll turn up. And it means that I can sometimes go back into the office now that I'm working again with complete peace of mind, because I know my baby boy's being looked after perfectly, exactly as I want him to. And that changes over time as well as we change, certain rhythms, and Janet adjusts along with that. So it's almost like I have a surrogate parent when I'm not around and when Seth's working, that I can leave him in perfect care. Well, we're first-time parents, and this is also our first babysitting experience, so we don't have much experience to draw on. But we did consider, prior to hiring Janet, we did actually consider leaving our child in childcare or daycare from the age of 5 months when I went back to work. I think Janet started supporting us from when Leo was around 2 months old. And so it gave us a few months to experience what it was like him being cared for one-to-one and getting that very personalized attention. And it made us that combined with our other considerations about how we wanted our baby to be looked after, we decided actually that was the better approach for him once I went back to work, because he really has someone who is fully dedicated to his needs, who understands him. He also trusts and loves Janet. I mean, the huge smile he has when Janet arrives at the house is such a testament to that. And so I think for us it was definitely the better option, because we know that his needs are being met. He's being put down to bed at exactly the time he needs. He's being fed at exactly the time he needs. He's with someone who makes him feel very, very comfortable and loved and safe. And it shows that when I come back from work at the end of the day, he's just as relaxed and happy as when I left.
Can I also jump in on that point? Because I think, Singapore is a country of a synthesis of different cultures, and with that come different ways of raising children. And I think one thing that we were considering is the UK. They have a particular way, people have a particular framework and way of doing things and way of raising children, and we wanted to bring an element of that with us to Singapore. And I think what's so wonderful about Janet is that Janet has managed to get the perfect balance between adopting and learning our rhythm, but also having her own suggestions. She brings her own energy to that and complements it, and it's a rare skill to have. I think we don't want to dominate, and we don't want to not learn, but simultaneously we also wanted to be able to raise Leo in a way that felt comfortable to us. And so for Janet to be able to step in and understand that and contribute to it, that's a really valuable thing.
And actually building on that, there's a few suggestions that Janet's made which are also I guess coming from your culture and heritage, which have been really wonderful to learn about, and we've actually used a lot, like things like using breast milk in other ways. For example, if it's no longer usable to feed, you can use it in many other ways, like putting it in his bath, for example, which we now always do. Yeah. So lovely little things like that, which we would never have known about, and have just they've enhanced our childcare, I would say.
I think yeah, as the dad, you only get a short period of time to support both your wife and your baby when they're first born. So I think I only had 2 weeks, and those first 2 weeks are lovely. You're kind of operating as a team, and you're really learning together and working together. But I would say that the first 3 months are quite. It's particularly with your first baby, it's quite a big change. There's a lot of learning to do, and there's a lot of things to be kind of. It can be quite challenging in terms of the lack of sleep, and so suddenly I'm going back to work, and Helen's left literally holding the baby on her own, and I think there was a sense of concern and worry, and I think it'd be fair to say that you were quite worried as well, and I knew when I got that voice message from you saying, Janet's here, she's lovely, she's playing, we found the one. I think I could see you relax, and over the next few days when Janet was coming in and supporting you through difficult times, I could see that you were a lot better for it, and that was great, and that made it a lot easier for me going to work. I knew that you were in safe hands. That Janet was coming, and we even talked about it. They'd be like, "Oh, phew, yeah, Janet's coming today. We can breathe a little bit easier." So I think just Janet's presence was always one of support, steady, kind, loving support, and knowing that was coming, and that there would be that support for you while I was at work was really lovely.
I think the other thing I'd add to that is Janet hasn't just been a babysitter to Leo. Like, she's also always been very caring of me as well, especially in the early days where I was much more exhausted and unsure of what I was doing. And there were times where Janet would come over and I was just completely so overwhelmed and so tired, and she really took care of me as well, letting me go off and sleep, and she gave me a head massage once to help me relax, which was just so caring. So I always felt that Janet was, a presence of good for our home, not just a babysitter to Leo.
Yeah.
I would say there's a constant tailoring going on between myself and Janet, in the sense that as your child grows and as you learn more about what works well for you as a parent and as a baby, you'll adjust certain rhythms like sleep or feeding, or how we want to help him, what activities we want him doing. And I'll always discuss these with Janet, and she will always immediately adjust what she's doing to what I ask and what I think is best for Leo, and she'll also bring suggestions like we've said before. So there's tailoring of the actual childcare, and then also, as we've talked about before, Janet's also very flexible in changing her hours or changing the days according to my needs, which I'm very, very lucky for. So I do really feel that Janet respects our needs and what we're personally asking for completely, rather than coming with her own preset ways of doing things. It's very much what I ask is very carefully respected. I would literally recommend Janet to absolutely everybody on earth. Maybe not even if you just have a baby, just for general. I would recommend Janet to everyone, and I will if that's needed as well once we leave. I would recommend her for any stage of child rearing, really. I mean, I think she started with us when Leo was about probably 2 months old, something like that, and he's now 7. And we've had Janet in the past just for a couple of hours at a time in the week as kind of ad hoc care, and now she also supports whilst I'm full-time at work, and both have worked incredibly well for us. So whatever your babysitting needs are, I think Janet is just incredibly reliable, incredibly caring, so natural with babies. I don't know how she has such a natural skill, but it really is a gift. And you can see that at the moment, she picks Leo up. Even in the very beginning, when he didn't know her, he was instantly relaxed and comfortable. So I would absolutely recommend Janet to anybody looking for childcare support. So I remember there was one time very early on when Leo was probably only about 2 months, maybe maximum, and he was having a complete meltdown. I'd had no sleep, and he was screaming and not wanting to eat, which was very unusual for him, and he was well past his nap time, so I was getting more and more stressed. And Janet arrived, and initially I thought, oh no, Janet's coming. This is the worst time because I'm in the middle of this meltdown. But Janet came in, she took Leo off me. I briefly explained what was happening through kind of semi-tears. She took him off me. She somehow managed to finally get him to feed. And then she got him down to bed all within about 4 or 5 minutes. And he was silent, sleeping, fed, happy. it was like it waved a magic wand. Honestly, it was the most incredible thing. I was so grateful because it was definitely one of the kind of more stressful moments of my parenting. And yeah, that's the sort of help that Janet can provide, even though she at the time was quite new to Leo as well. So just the amount of weight that it took off my mind, because it really gave me reassurance that even in really difficult times, Janet knows what she's doing. She's incredibly calm. She's very in control. She seems to know exactly what she's doing. I don't know how, even when I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, that was a huge help.
I guess feeding into the flexibility element, there was a period of time I've been dreading, which was the you're lying in bed and you're thinking, oh, I'm coming down with something a little bit nasty here, and then I get up and Helen is also coming down with something nasty, and we're thinking, oh, how on earth are we going to look after Leo when both of us are sick and we've got no family here? So it was a bit of a Ghostbusters, who you going to call moment. And Janet, obviously, was the first name that sprung to mind. And the feeling of relief when Helen got the message back being like, she can come, was huge. And it was just amazing, for Janet to not be afraid of our sick illness, but to come in and look after Leo and allow us to recover was amazing, and made a potentially very difficult situation and a situation I've been dreading, manageable. Yeah, I think obviously, I'm often in the background when it comes to conversations about Leo and Leo's childcare. You know, Helen and I do discuss these things, but it's Helen who is primarily, I think, interacting with Janet. Janet's seeing a little bit more of me. More recently. But I think just from my perspective, it's just as the partner going back to work, without family around, you really want to know that both your wife and your baby are in good hands and safe, caring, loving hands, and that's I think what Janet would bring to any family that she works with.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add is, to me, Janet's been so much more than just a babysitter or childcare. She's such an important part of Leo's life. She brings him so much happiness. Whenever she comes through the door, he's so excited to see her. And I find it really hard to imagine Leo's life without Janet in it, because the love that he has for her is so obvious, and the love that she has for him also, I'm sure. And so it's so much more than a transaction with Janet. It really is just an integral part of our home and of our son's early life.